There are bridges on Earth that do far more than simply connect two shores. They turn landscapes once thought impossible to cross into real roads for humans. Some bridges stand in the middle of vast seas, where wind and waves constantly test every metre of their structure. Some bridges stretch across deep canyons, transforming terrifying empty space into a real path forward. Some structures cling to high mountains, hanging in the air as if challenging gravity itself. Each bridge is a bold answer to the harsh terrain of our planet. They show how steel, concrete, cables, and imagination can carry humans beyond every limit. And in this journey, the world's most unbelievable bridges will take us to the edge where engineering, height, and human courage go far beyond what was once thought possible. Rising into the sky of France, the Milo viaduct has a record-setting pylon reaching 1,125 feet, taller than the Eiffel Tower, creating the image of a road lifted above the valley. At that height, wind becomes the main threat, so the bridge deck is shaped aerodynamically to reduce wind forces that can reach 140 miles per hour. Beyond fighting the wind, the structure also allows the deck to expand by up to 4 feet under temperature changes, helping release pressure before it builds into cracks. Behind that engineering, 7 large pylons and the white cable system appear from far away like sails standing in the air, making the huge steel structure look lighter than its real size. On foggy mornings, the lower body of the bridge almost disappears, while the vehicles on top seem to drive straight into a sea of clouds. Most impressively, this project was completed in only 3 years without a single fatal accident, turning Milo into a symbol of speed and technical control. Deceiving the eyes of millions of people, Öresund Bridge shocks viewers because it rises high above the sea and then suddenly disappears as if swallowed by the ocean. That disappearance happens when the cable-stayed bridge drops onto an artificial island where the route continues into a tunnel deep beneath the water. To build that tunnel, engineers did not dig through the seabed in the usual way, but precast giant concrete tubes weighing 55,000 tonnes and sank them into a deep trench. Because of that, Crossing this route creates a strong psychological shock as you move from high above the foggy sea wind into a dark and suffocating tunnel only minutes later. On the section still rising above the sea, two sharp white pylons stand 669 feet tall, looking like giant needles piercing the northern European sky. Even stranger, beneath the quiet road surface is a giant hollow space hiding a double-track railway where heavy trains run directly under the wheels of cars. Rui Bridge catches attention from the very first look because it does not look like a normal bridge, but curves through the canyon like a steel ribbon flying in the air. Especially when fog rises and hides parts of the metal frame, the bridge between green forest and ancient cliffs looks as if it is floating on clouds. The unstable feeling becomes even clearer because almost the whole structure has no right angles or straight flat sections, making every step feel tilted and curved. This unusual shape makes Rui Bridge look, from some angles, more like a computer-generated scene than a real bridge in the world. But when you look more closely, the curved paths woven together show that the structure was carefully designed to stand firmly between the canyon walls. The challenge that makes many people stop in place is the transparent glass floor, about 39 feet long, where a drop of about 459 feet appears right beneath their feet. Like a giant hand pulling a golden thread halfway across the sky, the Golden Bridge stretches over the mountain at about 4,593 feet above sea level. Behind the dreamlike image, the hands covered with mossy cracks are actually only fiberglass shells that have been artificially aged. The real support comes from steel columns hidden inside the mountainside, while the 492-foot bridge curves into 8 spans, a simulus to reduce wind force and limit shaking. From far away, the bright golden colour of the bridge stands in clear contrast with the rough grey hands that look like ancient stone and the green flower strips running along the railings. On the bridge deck, the main walkway is about 10 feet wide, making visitors feel as if they are walking on a thin road suspended in open space. As mist rises and hides the valley below, the hidden engineering turns the Golden Bridge into a man-made illusion, floating in the sky. Breaking every familiar idea of mountain transportation, Ajai Bridge cuts straight through the cliffs to suspend a giant steel ribbon between two tunnels in the air. When cars rush onto the bridge deck, the feeling of safety quickly disappears, because outside there is only strong wind, deep empty space, and thick fog blocking the view. Waiting at both ends of the abyss are pitch-black tunnel arches, opening like two giant stone mouths, swallowing the stream of vehicles rushing toward them. Beneath the bridge is an empty drop of 1,102 feet, often filled with fog so thick that drivers can barely sense the real depth below. Even more frightening, the main span stretches 3,858 feet across the valley without a single support pillar below, forcing the entire weight to hang from the cable system. Thanks to that mechanical power, a 30-minute struggle at the bottom of the abyss is compressed into a push of the gas pedal, lasting less than 1 minute. Golden Gate Bridge rises 745 feet above the water, with its towers painted in international orange to remain visible even in dense fog. From an engineering standpoint, its aerodynamic form and main cables exceeding 3 feet in diameter grant it stability against natural forces. Construction extended over 4 years with nearly 4,000 workers confronting strong tidal flows and persistent winds. Approximately 660,000 short tons of steel and concrete created a structure resilient to storms and earthquakes. Spanning about 9,000 feet with a 4,200-foot main span, it became the longest suspension bridge in the world upon its 1937 inauguration. Today, it serves both as a crucial transit route and as a global emblem blending human ingenuity with dramatic natural scenery. Holding the record as the highest bridge here in the world, the Huajiang Canyon Bridge carries its roadway 2,051 feet above the river, making vehicles appear to travel through the sky. On both sides, steep limestone cliffs frame waterfalls that drop along the slopes and sometimes form rainbows when sunlight passes through the mist. Beneath the porous rock lies a network of underground caves, forcing engineers to anchor the foundations deeply without cracking or collapsing the ground. The narrow canyon acts like a wind tunnel, pushing wind speeds above 93 miles per hour and requiring the bridge deck to reduce wind pressure. On cloudy mornings, fog hides the main towers and makes the bridge look like a metal ribbon floating without support. The bridge not only connects mountain areas once divided by the deep canyon, but also shortens the journey and creates a faster, more reliable transport route. Çanakkale Bridge, Turkey. Dethroning a world record that had lasted for 2 decades. This $2.8 billion suspension bridge slices across the strait like a colossal blade of steel, joining Asia and Europe with a single curve suspended between sea and sky. One astonishing detail is that the clearance beneath it rises to nearly 246 feet above the water, high enough for giant ships to pass below, giving drivers the eerie feeling of gliding along a narrow line hung between the ocean and the clouds. On days of thick fog, the body of the bridge seems to vanish from the real world, leaving only red cables spreading from the dim tower tops, like sharp streaks of light tearing open the grey sky. What also makes the structure extraordinary is that almost every major number on it carries memorial meaning. From the main span of about 2,023 metres, recalling the nation's centennial, to the Twin Towers rising about 1,043 feet in memory of March 18th, the date of a bloody First World War naval battle. To keep its blade-thin deck stable against violent wind, earthquakes and savage currents, engineers carved a 30-foot aerodynamic gap through the centre of the roadway and set the two giant towers on artificial gravel cushions so they could shift slightly when seismic force struck. More than merely cutting the crossing time to about 6 minutes, the bridge carries a deeper purpose because it ended the old struggle of cramming onto ferries and waiting for hours just to move from one shore of the Asia-Europe boundary to the other. Ponchisilta Aqueduct, United Kingdom. Viewed from afar, this canal looks like a fragile ribbon of water crossing the sky at a height of 126 feet, completely separated from the ground. A little-known secret is that the mortar binding these giant stones was mixed with ox blood, helping the structure last for centuries. The scariest feeling is sitting on a boat and floating right next to the edge of the abyss without any protective railing. Supporting the entire system are 18 towering limestone pillars, but they are hollow inside to reduce pressure on the foundation. Although looking light, this black iron trough has been carrying a massive water volume of nearly 400,000 gallons for over 200 years. This deserves to be a World Heritage masterpiece, where raw mechanical engineering has conquered the harshness of time. Russky Bridge, Russia. Once mocked as a $1 billion bridge to nowhere, Russky Bridge now holds the world record for the longest main span among cable-stayed bridges, like a colossal blade of steel stretched across a cold sea. Built at near light speed in only about 4 years to serve a global economic summit, the structure turned what once seemed like a pointless link into a heavy statement of engineering ambition. In winter, the water below can freeze into ice about 28 inches thick, so the pier foundations had to be shaped like giant blades to crush drifting ice before it could strike the bridge. To suspend its enormous deck across a span of about 3,622 feet, the bridge uses some of the largest stay cables ever made, with the longest reaching about 1,903 feet, like giant steel tendons holding the whole structure above the sea. Its A-shaped towers rise about 1,050 feet high, while the cables are painted white, blue and red like a giant flag in the sky, and when night falls, light washing across them turns the bridge into a floating three-colour glow above the black water. But what truly makes it unusual is that the bridge must survive an annual temperature swing of nearly 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So the deck is not locked rigidly in place, but rests on giant bearings that let the whole structure slide and expand by several feet without tearing itself apart. Baipanjiang Bridge, Duja, has an overall length of about 4,400 feet with a main span of 2,362 feet, employing a steel cable stay design capable of resisting strong winds and seismic activity in high altitude terrain. This engineering marvel is one of the tallest bridges in the world, with its deck towering roughly 1,854 feet above the riverbed, a height comparable to a skyscraper of over 180 stories. Its construction demanded advanced methods such as setting cables across the steep gorge and delivering building materials using a temporary cableway. Serving as part of a strategic expressway link, it connects mountainous areas and drastically cuts travel times between provinces. Today, Baipanjiang Bridge Duge is not only a vital transportation artery, but also a remarkable landmark admired by travellers and engineers for its precision and design excellence. It remains a striking example of how modern engineering can triumph over some of the world's most challenging landscapes. Pelješac Bridge, Croatia. The Pelješac Bridge is remembered not only for its scale, but because it permanently joined two parts of a country that had been separated for decades, allowing people to travel across their own land without detouring through another nation. The project is especially unusual because it was funded mainly by the European Union, but built by a Chinese state-owned company, making it a rare symbol of Western money combined with Eastern construction speed. To survive brutal wind and a hostile marine environment, the bridge was protected with a specially engineered concrete skin able to resist sea salt corrosion for at least 100 years, while its structure was assembled from about 77,000 tonnes of steel girders shipped halfway around the world. Stretching about 2 miles across turquoise water, the cable-stayed bridge rises with 6 white pylons and hundreds of cables looking like a giant harp suspended between sky and sea. One remarkable detail is that the bridge was raised to about 180 feet of clearance so large ships could still pass beneath it, and during offshore piling, engineers used an underwater bubble curtain to reduce noise and protect dolphins and marine life. And although it cost about €500 million and was open free to all vehicles, the bridge is not just an engineering triumph, but also a symbol of territorial unity and freedom of movement that people had waited far too long to reclaim. Pingtang Bridge has become a tourist attraction thanks to its panoramic view over the valley and surrounding mountains. This structure is a vital part of the expressway linking economic hubs in the region, significantly reducing travel time and expanding trade opportunities. The combination of advanced engineering and untouched natural landscapes has turned Pingtang Bridge into a new icon of China's transport infrastructure. A Pingtang Bridge is one of the tallest and most impressive bridges in the world, spanning a deep valley in Guizhou province, China, with its main tower reaching approximately 1,090 feet. Equal to a building of over 100 floors. The bridge has a total length of about 7,020 feet, using a unique 3-tower cable-stayed design, engineered to withstand strong winds and the complex mountainous terrain. Building Pingtang Bridge required high-precision construction techniques, as engineers had to install massive cable stays and steel deck segments at great heights while ensuring absolute safety. As vehicles glide across, one can fully appreciate the monumental scale of the structure and the grandeur of the scenery. Sutong Yangtze River Bridge features towers rising 306 metres, equivalent to a skyscraper of over 100 floors, built from high-strength concrete and steel to support its vast cable system. Spanning the Yangtze River, it serves as a crucial artery in eastern China's transportation network, stretching approximately 8,200 metres with a main span of 1,088 metres. When completed in 2008, it held the world record for the longest cable-stayed span. A testament to its advanced engineering. The deck measures 33 metres wide with 6 lanes, enabling over 100,000 vehicles to cross each day, significantly cutting travel time between major economic zones. From its expanse, travellers enjoy panoramic views of the Yangtze River below, where massive cargo ships move steadily through the water. Jiaozhou Bay Bridge has a deck wide enough for 6 traffic lanes with a speed limit of 50 miles per hour, accommodating increasing cargo and passenger flows. Beyond being a vital transport link, it stands as an architectural landmark with sweeping views over the expansive bay and dynamic seascapes. Built from reinforced concrete capable of withstanding strong winds and harsh ocean waves, its total length reaches about 26 miles, with a 16-mile main section across open water. It connects Qingdao City with the Huangdao area, cutting travel by over 19 miles compared to the traditional route around the bay. The piers are engineered to resist major earthquakes and saltwater corrosion while minimising impact on the marine environment. After more than 4 years of construction using millions of cubic yards of concrete and hundreds of thousands of tons of steel, the bridge became a testament to advanced infrastructure engineering. Jiaozhou Bay Bridge strengthens links between strategic economic zones, boosting trade, tourism and urban growth throughout the coastal region. Changtai Yangtze River Bridge has a dual-level structure optimised for efficiency. The upper deck is an expressway supporting speeds of up to 62 miles per hour, while the lower deck is a mixed railway line handling both high-speed and freight trains. Its total length is about 6 miles, featuring a cable-stayed design with a main span of nearly zero point 0.6 miles, which allows large cargo ships to pass unobstructed beneath. Once completed, Changtai Yangtze River Bridge will not only be a vital transportation link, but also a landmark of modern engineering, showcasing China's advanced bridge building capabilities. The main tower stands approximately 1,150 feet tall, constructed from special steel and reinforced concrete to endure high winds and heavy loads. The project is expected to cut travel times, enhance cargo and passenger transport capacity, and stimulate economic development across the region. San Juanico Bridge. San Juanico appears proudly like a red-orange steel dragon, a strong proof of the top construction skills of Southeast Asia in the 70s. Contrasting with the calm look above are the fierce swirling currents below the bridge feet, looking like giant washing machines waiting to swallow everything. But controlling that water is the power of love, as this structure was actually a luxury birthday gift from a president to his wife. This concrete silk strip stretches for 1.34 miles, equal to the length of 20 football fields lined up, crossing the vast ocean to connect two shores. An interesting secret lies in the curved design. When seen from above, the bridge cleverly draws the two letters L and S, representing the names of the two lands it connects. And that strong life was confirmed when Super Typhoon Haiyan flattened everything. But the bridge still stood firm like an immortal monument against nature. Akashi Kaikyo Bridge, Japan. Piercing the cloud layer with a height of 984 feet, the two towers of the bridge appear like a heavenly gate, completely separated from the sea surface. Its resilience is a legend, as it survived a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, a geological shock that tore the ground and pushed the two bridge legs 3 feet further apart. So, The total length of the steel cables here reaches 186,411 miles. A crazy number enough to wrap around the Earth's equator 7.5 times. For 24 long years, it firmly held the throne as the suspension bridge with the longest main span in human history, with an unimaginable distance of 6,532 feet. To suspend this monster, 36,830 small steel wires were compressed together into a massive main cable bundle with a diameter of 44 inches. Its scale is so large that engineers had to account for the curvature of the Earth, making the distance between the two tower tops 4 inches wider than the base. Donghai Bridge has a deck 102 feet wide, allowing multiple lanes of vehicles to travel at the same time, supporting the heavy transport flow between the seaport and the mainland. Its structure is made of high-strength steel and special salt-resistant concrete, built to last in the harsh marine conditions of the East China Sea. From the bridge, travellers can see the sea stretching endlessly to the horizon, with streams of vehicles moving like a living connection between land and open waters. The piers are anchored deep into the seabed at carefully calculated depths to withstand earthquakes and strong marine currents. Spanning about 20 miles, Donghai Bridge is engineered to endure the region's powerful winds and waves while ensuring year-round traffic stability. Donghai Bridge stands among the longest cross-sea bridges in the world, connecting the mainland with an offshore island to create a critical route for cargo movement and economic growth. Vasco da Gama Bridge, Portugal. Viewed from afar, the white cable towers rise into the sky like a giant harp playing music in the middle of the vast estuary. On days with thick fog, this structure creates a strange illusion as the road seems to dissolve into nothingness among the clouds. To stand firm in the muddy water, engineers had to drive foundation piles more than 310 feet into the ground, equivalent to a 30-story building. With a total length of nearly 11 miles, drivers take up to 15 minutes to cross this vast ocean-like water surface. The most incredible thing is that this great masterpiece was completed at lightning speed, taking only 18 months to fully assemble. Hidden behind that fragile beauty is the power of survival. Designed to withstand an earthquake 4.5 times stronger than the historical disaster. Agas Bridge. If the ocean is proud of length, Agas proudly rises amidst the great forest to hold the position of the highest bridge in the Philippines. Born from a bold technical solution, this structure was designed to fly over loose clay lands, permanently ending the landslide nightmare that used to cut off the two sides. Taking advantage of that dangerous terrain, this place has turned into a paradise for thrill seekers wanting to test their courage with a steep zip line rushing straight down the abyss. Standing on the bridge deck, 276 feet from the bottom, equal to a 29-story building, humans suddenly become tiny before the overwhelming height of nature. The scene becomes even more magical in the early mornings when fog from the valley rises to cover it, making traffic look like it is floating in the clouds. Overcoming all challenges, it has become an invincible link of the arterial road, keeping the trading breath of the whole nation always flowing. Sheikh Jabir Al Ahmad Causeway, Kuwait. Surpassing the limits of ordinary structures, this majestic concrete strip is an extravagant epic stretching across the ocean to connect the city with the void. The trip begins from a brightly lit forest of skyscrapers, but will quickly throw you into a desolate and chillingly silent sand dune region on the other shore. Under the scorching 122-degree Fahrenheit heat of the Gulf, optical illusions frequently bend the light, making the bridge surface look broken and floating in the sky. Stretching up to 31 miles, its greatness forced humans to calculate even the curvature of the planet's surface so that the two ends would not miss each other. Breaking that flat horizon is a 492-foot asymmetrical pylon, proudly rising in the shape of an Arab sail stretching to catch the wind. Despite costing billions of dollars, this masterpiece is currently just a sci-fi stroke waiting for a future megacity that is still only lying on paper. Sky Bridge 721, Czech Republic. Hovering amidst the vast mid-air, this great suspension bridge splits the sky with a length of 2,365 feet and sits precariously at a height of 312 feet. The cruelest rule on this boundary is the absolute ban on turning around, forcing you to grit your teeth and step forward even when terror surrounds you. On foggy days, completely obscuring both ends, every hovering footstep brings a feeling of extreme isolation, like walking into the void. Despite stretching endlessly, the structure creates a creepy illusion of a fragile string ready to snap because of its breathtakingly narrow width of merely 4 feet. Looking through the steel grating floor, a whole primitive pine forest ecosystem and sharp cliffs appear clearly right under your heels. Each gust of wind howling through tens of thousands of metal gaps creates a moaning, eerie symphony, like the sigh of wild nature itself. Confederation Bridge, Canada. Stretching across the icy strait, this great 8-mile-long traffic machine has shattered the millennial isolation of the island from the continent. A strange rule applied here is that you are completely free to enter, but forced to pay an expensive toll fee if you want to return. To create this masterpiece, giant concrete blocks weighing 8,267 tons were cast on shore, then dropped into the sea by cranes like a great puzzle. When winter strikes, 65 cone-shaped pillars turn into a mechanical slaughterhouse, calmly slicing in half and crushing any giant ice floes crashing into it. The bridge structure deliberately winds into a giant letter S to break highway hypnosis, forcing drivers to always stay alert amidst the vast white space. Despite its supreme pride, this concrete strip still has to surrender to nature, as the barrier system will slam shut immediately if the wind force exceeds 43 miles per hour. Sidu River Bridge, China. Completed in 2009, this mega bridge held the title of the world's highest for years, with its deck hanging about 1,627 feet above the gorge floor, so high that the void below could swallow the Empire State Building whole. Against the deep, green mountain forest, the bright orange suspension system and towers stand out violently, yet they are often swallowed by fog and cloud, making the bridge seem to drive straight into emptiness. From a distance, that enormous steel structure looks impossibly thin, more like a strand of thread stretched over a black hole in the earth than an expressway built for heavy traffic. Because the canyon was too deep and the wind too violent for boats or helicopters to pull the first line across, engineers had to fire the pilot cable over the gap with military rockets. The result was a main span of about 2,953 feet with no support tower in the middle, stretched across a giant geological wound cut open by the river. Looking down from the deck, the river at the bottom shrinks to little more than a faint thread, a reminder that this whole feat is hanging above an almost endless drop. Magdeburg Water Bridge, Germany. Lifting an entire artificial river weighing tens of thousands of tons into the air, the Magdeburg Water Bridge became the longest water bridge on Earth, where cargo ships do not travel on land but quietly sail across the sky. To keep that enormous mass of water working through winter, engineers run a continuous aeration system along the channel to stop the surface from freezing into a giant block of ice that could damage the whole structure. Its strangest feature is that even when a ship weighing thousands of tons enters the bridge, the load on the structure stays almost unchanged because the vessel instantly pushes out an equal weight of water under the principle of Archimedes. To create this flying river stretching nearly half a mile, Engineers used about 24,000 tonnes of high-strength steel and about 68,000 cubic yards of concrete, so it's turning what sounded like a mad idea into a real transport structure. The bridge itself works like a giant bathtub hanging in the air, holding about 24,000 tonnes of water at a steady depth of around 14 feet, while ships enter it by passing through massive locks that lift them like hydraulic elevators. Along both sides are paths for pedestrians and cyclists, where you move beside a huge suspended body of water, with ships cutting through it at your shoulder while looking down into the open space below, creating the eerie feeling of walking along the rim of a bathtub hanging in the sky. Longjung Bridge offers panoramic views of the valley and surrounding mountain ranges, creating a striking visual experience where modern infrastructure meets dramatic natural landscapes. Inaugurated in 2016, it spans a deep valley and plays a vital role in connecting the transportation network of northwestern Yunnan province. With a total length of about 805 metres and a height of approximately 280 metres from the deck to the valley floor, it ranks among the highest bridges in the world, enabling vehicles to bypass winding mountain roads entirely. Ultimately, it stands as proof of advanced engineering's ability to master challenging terrain while fueling regional economic growth. Veluwemeer Aqueduct, Netherlands. Instead of building a bulky bridge or drilling a deep tunnel through mud, the Dutch chose something far stranger, lifting a strip of water into the air and letting cars pass underneath it. The Veluwemeer Aqueduct became famous for completely reversing normal traffic logic, with boats calmly floating across water about 62 feet wide and 10 feet deep, while vehicles race directly below. So, to create this hanging water tank about 82 feet long, engineers used roughly 28,800 cubic yards of high-strength concrete and pinned the sunken roadway into the ground with massive steel piling, so it would not be pushed upward by buoyant force. The whole structure cost about $61 million, making it far cheaper than digging a long tunnel beneath the lake, while still preserving the natural water flow so fish and aquatic life could pass through as if no road had ever cut across it. It creates a spectacular crossing point where a calm lake surface and a rushing stream of asphalt slice violently across each other, producing the kind of visual trick that once shocked people around the world. Along both sides are pedestrian paths where you can watch rippling water and passing boats at eye level while knowing that traffic is speeding right beneath your feet, creating the eerie feeling of standing on the border between two worlds. The Helix Bridge, Singapore. By directly copying the DNA structure of life and enlarging it in steel, the Helix Bridge became the only curved double helix pedestrian bridge in the world, like a giant strand of genetic code suspended above the water. 4 oval viewing decks project out from the bridge, letting visitors stand above the water and take in the whole surrounding scene from a position that feels almost suspended in mid-air. Once inside, it feels like being drawn into a biological tunnel of steel and glass, while the glowing letters C, G, A, and T on the floor remind you that every step crosses the basic code of life itself. The whole structure was woven from about 650 tons of duplex stainless steel, strong enough to resist harsh sea salt, while the 2 spiraling tube systems wrap around each other and carry the bridge without relying on heavy tower supports. What impressed engineers most is that the bridge does not only twist, but also bends through a perfect arc, so the entire structure had to be fully assembled on land first before being moved to the bay and fitted together with errors measured only in millimeters. When night falls, LED strips along the steel frame light up in sequence, creating the illusion that the bridge is breathing, transforming it from a walkway into a glowing strand of genetic code in the dark. Ponte Lupo, China. Quando foi inaugurada, essa mega estrutura de aço de 300 milhões de dólares detinha o recorde mundial de ponte em arco de aço mais longa, cruzando o rio com um vão principal de cerca de 550 metros e sem nenhum pilar de apoio na água. O que mais chamou a atenção dos engenheiros foi que seu arco principal não foi unido com parafusos nem rebites, mas ele se tornou a primeira ponte do mundo a usar soldagem completa nas seções centrais do arco, transformando toda a estrutura em uma única massa contínua de aço. A pista de 6 faixas fica suspensa lá abaixo do arco por uma rede densa de cabos de aço, criando a sensação estranha de que todo o fluxo de trânsito atravessa um enorme balanço de aço. Sua característica mais famosa é que os visitantes não apenas cruzam a ponte, mas também podem subir mais de 300 degraus ao longo da lateral curva de aço para ficar a cerca de 100 metros acima da água e observar a cidade lá embaixo. Para manter esse corpo gigantesco de aço estável sobre o terreno fraco e lodoso à beira do rio, os engenheiros precisaram criar um sistema oculto de fundação enorme, ao mesmo tempo em que permitiam que a estrutura se expandisse e se contraísse com a temperatura sem se romper. Quando a noite cai, milhares de luzes correndo ao longo do arco transformam o aço frio em uma fita delicada e colorida de luz flutuando sobre o rio. Bastei Bridge, Germany. In the middle of a maze of sandstone towers, the seven-arch stone bridge built in 1851 looks as if it is hanging in the sky, linking steep rock pinnacles with a form that feels both elegant and threatening. For centuries, people have come here as much for the deep view as for the thrill, and nobles once visited this place on purpose to feel fear in front of height and empty space. That feeling grows even stronger because the ruins of a medieval fortress still appear among the thinnest rock spires, giving the whole scene both grandeur and gloom. In fact, before the stone bridge of today, people had already dared to build a wooden bridge here in 1824 to connect the rocks, which shows how early this place began pulling visitors in. And once you look down at the drop of more than 636 feet to the river below, it becomes easy to understand why even a few steps on the narrow path can make your head spin. Surrounding everything are sandstone formations carved by water for more than 1 million years, so the bridge feels less like an ordinary structure and more like a path through the skeleton of an ancient stone world. Landwasser Viaduct, Switzerland. In the middle of dark pine forest, this stone bridge appears like a slender curve, and the moment a red train glides onto it, the whole scene begins to look like a moving painting. In winter, snow covers the whole valley in white, while the red train stands out against grey stone and cold forest, making the landscape feel both quiet and strangely ghost-like. That feeling grows even stronger because the moment it leaves the windy open space, the train dives straight into a dark tunnel in the cliff, as if it has been swallowed in a second. Built from 1901 to 1902, the bridge rises about 213 feet, stands on 6 even stone arches, and after more than 120 years, its shape is still almost unchanged. Because the curve is so sharp, with a radius of only about 328 feet, people in the rear cars can see the front of the train seeming to hang above the deep gorge, with almost no support in sight. That mix of height, curve, the red train, and the sudden jump into darkness is what makes Landwasser one of the most unforgettable railway sites in Europe. Hangzhou Bay Bridge. Like a concrete dragon curving across the sea, Hangzhou Bay Bridge stretches about 22 miles and was once the longest sea-crossing bridge in the world when it was completed. In the middle of the bridge sits an artificial island of about 108,000 square feet, where people can stop and watch the road stretch toward both horizons. Below it lies a soft mud layer about 164 feet deep, so engineers had to drive steel piles about 262 feet down into hard rock to stop the bridge from sinking. Along the roadway, the railings change colour in different sections, helping drivers sense distance and turning the bridge into a rainbow strip over the sea. The structure also has to stand against violent tides, where walls of water about 23 to 26 feet high can crash into the bridge supports with terrifying force. When night falls, the whole bridge glows like a dragon of light, curving through the darkness of the bay. Nanpu Bridge. Inside crowded Shanghai, Nanpu Bridge curls like a giant concrete dragon, using a spiral approach instead of a long ramp that would have taken too much land. Each day, the bridge carries about 120,000 vehicles, turning that spiral into a huge stream of traffic that never stops moving. The main span rises about 151 feet above the water, high enough for ships weighing 55,000 tonnes to pass below without being blocked. The spiral is about 1,388 feet wide, carrying cars through several layers of space before suddenly pushing them onto the main bridge. This project, costing about 820 million US dollars, was finished in only 3 years and became a major mark of modern bridge engineering. When night falls, the spiral road and bridge cables light up together, turning Nanpu Bridge into a floating maze of light inside a future-like city. Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge. Stretching like a white dragon gliding on the waves, this giant sea crossing route is the most ambitious construction marvel of modern times. Dotted along the route are two beautiful artificial islands, shaped like eternal ocean liners, quietly anchored. Looking high up, the artistic cable towers rise into the blue sky to simulate a pod of dancing dolphins and wind-filled sails. I'm eaters. Sounds. To survive in the brutally corrosive ocean environment, the project had to use 440,925 short tons of steel, enough mass to cast 60 Eiffel Towers. The most heart-stopping experience is when the highway speeding on the water suddenly plunges into the seabed, leading straight into a mysterious underwater tunnel over 4 miles long. Going far beyond all traffic limits, this super project is a statement of humanity's power to conquer nature, connecting distant lands. Tiananmen Bridge, serving as the heart of a complex traffic network. This super arch bridge is a proud masterpiece of modern engineering. When night falls, the lighting system instantly turns the steel frame into a gorgeous fiery crown floating on the dark river. Even during the day, the dark red paint of the structure shines with authority like a giant silk ribbon tearing through the grey fog. Crossing the fierce water with an arch span of 1,811 feet, this great structure proudly stands without using any pillars in the middle of the stream. This machine consumed up to 50,706 short tons of high-strength steel, a massive weight equivalent to melting down 6 Eiffel Towers to cast. The experience of hearing the train roaring through its metal chest will definitely bring a breathtaking feeling, just like a science fiction movie. Dudevica Tara Bridge, Montenegro, rising proudly in a wild and untouched landscape. This concrete masterpiece stretches across one of the deepest canyons in Europe, reaching about 4,265 feet down. To pour concrete at such a deadly height, the builders had to cut down a whole forest to create a giant wooden scaffold about 463 feet tall. Pushing past the engineering limits of its time, the bridge curves through the air with 5 graceful arches, led by a huge main arch spanning 381 feet. The hollow spaces in the bridge are not decorative, but part of a smart aerodynamic design that helps reduce wind pressure and protect the structure from being torn apart by strong storms. Behind its majestic beauty is a tragic story, because the engineer who built it later blew up part of his own masterpiece with dynamite to stop the enemy, giving his life for freedom. Honyagu Glass Bridge. Hanging between 2 red cliffs in Hebei province, this glass bridge looks like a transparent path floating in the air, making people feel as if they are standing on empty space. Between the clear glass floor, the wind screaming through the bridge gaps, and the steel cables shaking softly, create a tense atmosphere, making the fear underfoot feel even stronger. Visitors also have to wear special shoe covers to avoid scratching the glass, keeping the bridge so clear that it almost disappears under their feet. Because of this, Honyagu Glass Bridge is not only a famous glass bridge, but also a mental challenge where sound, shaking, and the deep, empty space force people to face their fear of heights. Aqueduct of Segovia, Spain. Cutting straight through the busy city centre, this 94-foot stone machine creates a shocking contrast as modern vehicles pass beneath its 2,000-year-old arches. It worked without any engine, using only gravity to move about 8 gallons of water every second, turning Roman engineering into a silent display of power. Its greatest mystery lies in more than 20,400 stone blocks locked together by pressure and friction, without needing a single drop of cement or mortar. On the stone surface, old lifting holes still reveal how giant iron clamps and cranes once raised these heavy blocks into place. As sunset fades, the megalith becomes a dark wall of stone, casting long, sharp shadows that slowly swallow the square below. Reaching across a giant canyon like an almost invisible strip of glass, the Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon Glass Bridge in China forces anyone who steps onto it to look straight down into the deep drop below. Beneath the bridge are vertical sandstone cliffs, shaped by about 380 million years of faulting, erosion, and geological change. To support the weight, the floor is made from 99 tempered glass panels about 2 inches thick, strong enough for about 800 people to stand on at the same time. Although it is technically strong, the glass is so transparent that it tricks the eyes, making the bridge floor seem to disappear in midair. Because the structure is trapped between deep canyon walls, it often faces strong winds compressed through the gap, making every step on the glass feel even more tense. And that visual pressure is so strong that many healthy people still have to close their eyes, lower their bodies, or crawl across some sections in fear. Puente de Ojuela, Mexico. Hanging like a steel spiderweb over the mouth of a desert abyss, this bridge stretches more than 1,043 feet across the canyon. So thin from a distance that it seems as if the wind could snap it at any moment. On the far side lie the ruins of a mining town that once held more than 5,000 workers, with electricity and luxuries that appeared before they did in many larger cities, before a catastrophic underground flood in the early 20th century left it abandoned. The narrow shape of the canyon below pulls desert wind into violent gusts, turning the whole bridge into a shaking pendulum whenever a hard blast cuts through. Completed in 1892, it once ranked among the longest suspension bridges in the world, with huge steel cables anchored deep into limestone and towers later replaced with reinforced steel so the bridge could survive for more than a century. The deck is only about 6 feet wide and built from widely spaced wooden planks, so every step opens a view of a drop more than 361 feet below through the dry, creaking under your feet. Around it spread cracked orange-grey cliffs, thorny scrub, abandoned mine shafts, and empty window frames, creating a scene that feels part Western film and part remnant of a world that has already died. Looking like an old strip of cables stretched across a deep abyss, the Hussaini Hanging Bridge in Pakistan makes anyone who steps onto it feel as if one wrong move could be enough to disappear into the empty space below. The bridge sits more than 8,200 feet above sea level, where thin air can make people tire faster, feel their heartbeat rise, and become dizzy as fear builds. trapped inside a narrow V-shaped valley. The bridge often faces wind gusts reaching 50 miles per hour, strong enough to keep the whole structure shaking again and again. Right below it is a grey glacier-fed river carrying mud, sand and broken stones, making the open gaps beneath each step feel even more terrifying. The bridge floor is made only of widely spaced wooden planks, forcing people to take long steps over large gaps while gripping the cables tightly with their hands. So, the most intense moment comes when wind lifts dust from the riverbed and blocks the view, leaving walkers with no clear sense of the ground, direction or way out. Shiziguan Floating Bridge. Without concrete pillars or cliff support, this floating bridge rests directly on the green lake and curves like a white dragon through a forest canyon. To keep the floating system balanced, vehicles must drive under 12 miles per hour and cannot stop in the middle, making each crossing feel like a slow journey cutting through waves. With a width of only about 15 feet, the bridge feels narrow but very unusual because people can clearly sense the deck floating with the rhythm of the water. Under the bridge are thousands of strong HDPE floating blocks, a material that resists corrosion and impact, helping the bridge stay stable on the water for many years. In the early morning, when fog covers the canyon, the bridge almost disappears on the lake, making the cars look as if they are floating through a cool green void. Zhaozhou Bridge. Thin as a crescent moon laid over the water, this bridge has stood for more than 1,400 years and still keeps a rare lightness for such an ancient stone bridge. It was built around 595 to 605 during the Sui period, which means it already existed before many of the world's famous monuments were even born. Its stone blocks were locked tightly with iron joints, and that is why it survived 10 major floods and many earthquakes without collapsing. What made it far ahead of its time was the open arch design with 4 small side openings, which made the bridge lighter and also let floodwater pass through more easily, about 700 years before the West followed the same idea. The arch is also very low, with a height to length ratio of 1 to 5, so people, horse carts, and goods could cross it much more easily than the tall and steep bridges of the past. That may be why its original name was Onji, carrying the wish that people could pass through every storm in life safely and gently. Guangji Bridge. This bridge did more than cross a river, because from 1171 it could also open the way for passing ships, making it one of the earliest opening bridges in the world. Beneath its graceful look are giant stone piers built from heavy blocks, fitted together with great skill and balance, which is why the bridge has stood for more than 800 years in fast water. Its strangest feature is the middle section that could be taken apart each day, when 18 wooden boats were separated to let large vessels pass, making the whole bridge look as if it was splitting itself in two. The structure was also a rare mix of 3 bridge forms in one body: a stone beam bridge, a stone arch bridge, and a floating bridge. From far away, it looked like a row of palaces on the river, with 24 pavilions resting on sharp stone piers that helped cut through the strong current. Once a busy market above the water, this bridge shows that people long ago knew how to live with nature instead of trying to fight it. Bridge Village in Chongqing, China. Chongqing plants a strong visual shock into the minds of visitors with a bizarre neighbourhood suspended entirely in mid-air. If observed from above, the canyon surface seems to be crossed by a giant ribbon plastered with brightly coloured Lego building blocks. Especially on wet weather days, Thick fog completely swallows the supporting pillars, turning tens of thousands of tons of concrete into a magical floating island. This 1,312 feet long bridge body has entirely abandoned its core traffic function to carry the massive static load of solid building rows. Following the narrow deck, architectural structures with sweeping curved roofs echoing ancient Chinese palaces defiantly spring up. These closely packed buildings create a dangerous wind tunnel, making the cold air currents rushing up from the river 2 to 3 times stronger than normal. Pamban Bridge, India. In the middle of the blue sea, this bridge looks like a thin line of steel daring to carry a train just above the water. From far away, it bends gently across the sea, and the train curling along that narrow strip with almost no side barriers looks both beautiful and frightening. When wind gusts reach about 93 miles per hour, the train can move at only about 6 miles per hour. So even a few minutes on the bridge feel like a test of nerves. Opened in 1914, the bridge is about 1 mile long with 143 spans, and its middle section can split and rise to let boats pass through. In the early morning, when fog hides both ends, the scream of wheels on the rails between the waves makes the ride feel as if it is rushing into endless empty space. After part of it was destroyed by a super cyclone in 1964 and rebuilt in only 45 days, Pamban still stands today as a stubborn legend in the middle of the ocean. Ashima Ohashi Bridge, Japan. This giant bridge in Japan is actually a spectacular deception designed to manipulate the psychology of millions of people. It is pushed into the sky like a 15-story building, solely to give way for massive cargo ships to pass underneath. Stretching about 1 mile across the lake, this is the greatest rigid frame concrete architectural block in the land of the rising sun. And although likened to a roller coaster with a 45-degree vertical concrete wall, that is entirely a brain-tricking optical illusion. Ironically, the fatal danger here is not slipping backwards, but tourists suddenly braking hard to try and take pictures. Mala Rijeka Viaduct, Montenegro. Have you ever seen a train crawl across open air as if it was sliding on a thin steel thread, caught between two walls of white rock? The wild part is that this bridge is only one piece of railway once seen as one of the most expensive and difficult in Europe, with the full line passing through 254 tunnels and crossing more than 435 bridges. And it became the clearest symbol of a dream to connect the inland heart of the country with the coast by rail across brutal land. When it was finished, it rose about 656 feet high and stretched nearly 1,640 feet long, making it the highest railway viaduct in Europe and making every train on it look tiny against the mountains. To keep that giant structure standing, builders used about 25,000 tonnes of steel, strong enough to face mountain wind gusts of up to about 62 miles per hour. From far away, the bridge looks as thin as a thread, yet that fragile look is exactly what turns it into such a powerful symbol of people daring to carry a railway through a place that seemed impossible. Storseisundet Bridge attracts visitors because of a strange illusion that makes drivers think the road ahead is broken and falling straight into the sea. What makes it more impressive is that the concrete structure sits on old rock, helping it stand strong in a windy sea area. Also, its curves are designed to reduce wind pressure, especially during storms that can reach up to 100 miles per hour. In fact, the 75-foot high arch and the 853-foot road create a short blind spot, leaving drivers with only the sky in front of them for about 2 seconds. Locals also call it the Drunken Bridge because of its uneven design and because it does not follow a normal straight line. Finally, that dangerous look brought the bridge into a high-speed James Bond chase scene in the film No Time to Die. Devil's Bridge, Germany. Hidden deep In Germany's Kromlau forest, Rakottsbrücke appears like a cursed stone gateway, reflecting on the lake as an eerie, perfect circle. Whether it is a masterpiece of calculation or a bridge pulled from a dark legend, Rakottsbrücke still feels as if it is hiding a path not meant for humans. What feels chilling is that this unbelievably thin bridge has stood for more than 160 years. Even though its curved stone arch looks ready to fall into the water at any moment. The structure was commissioned by Friedrich Hermann Rutschke in 1860 using basalt columns selected and brought from distant quarries to create its strange appearance. Today, crossing the bridge is still forbidden to protect the structure, making it feel even more like an ancient doorway people may see but never touch. Kuendinsky Bridge. From an abandoned railway structure that was never permitted, this place has become a raw obsession for anyone wanting to conquer the wild Siberia. The first rule of survival is that drivers must always keep the car door open, accepting the biting cold to have a chance to jump out if the wind throws the vehicle into the water. Companions are forced to leave their soft seats to walk and guide, watching every inch because the driver is completely blind to the edge of the abyss below. The tension reaches its peak as the bridge surface is only about 6.5 feet wide, a number just fitting a car body and allowing no margin for error. Along the entire length of this bridge, hanging about 50 feet above the river, there are absolutely no guardrails, turning every slip into an irreversible disaster. Amidst the isolated ice and snow, the only sound left is the groaning of rotting wood under the wheels, signalling a journey where life is bet entirely on luck.